Chosen one, what I'm about to share with you may surprise you, maybe even shake you, but your spirit already knows this is for you. If you're watching this video right now, it's not by accident. God led you here because something powerful is shifting in your life. You're stepping out of the season of waiting and into the season of receiving. The very things you once prayed for, cried over, and were mocked for believing in are no longer just distant hopes. They're already moving into your reality. This is more than just a mindset shift. It's a divine transformation. You've been betrayed, abandoned, and falsely judged. People turned on you. They misread your silence, misunderstood your calmness, and called your mercy weakness. But now they're stunned, because your silence wasn't empty. It was power under control. And your mercy, that was your strength. What they didn't see was that while they schemed, you waited on God. And now God is moving, lifting you, vindicating you, and making every lie fall to the ground. Before we go any deeper into this life-changing word, pause this video and do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 20,000 subscribers, and leave a comment with the number 11. That number is prophetic, a signal to the atmosphere that you're in alignment with this message and ready to receive. And remember, if you are truly a chosen one, you'll watch this until the end, because deep down, your spirit knows this word is for you. What's coming next will not only confirm what you've sensed, but unlock a new season of clarity and breakthrough. There comes a painful moment in life when the very people you trusted the most suddenly turn their backs on you. Friends become strangers, allies become accusers, and your heart is left broken and confused. It's a lonely place when betrayal cuts deep and abandonment feels like a personal judgment. But here's the truth. What feels like the end of your story is often the beginning of God's divine turnaround. When others walk away, God steps in with a plan far greater than you could imagine. Imagine Joseph in the Bible, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and forgotten in prison. Yet God was orchestrating a powerful reversal that would elevate Joseph beyond his enemies' wildest dreams. Like Joseph, you might not understand why the ones who promised loyalty turned against you. But God's timing is perfect, and He never forgets His chosen. The betrayal you endured is setting the stage for your breakthrough. It's easy to feel rejected and question your worth when faced with false accusations and abandonment. But don't let their rejection define you. Remember, God sees your pain and is actively working behind the scenes to bring justice and restoration. What they intended for harm, God will use for your good. When you are faithful in the darkest moments, He will turn the tables in your favor, making your story one of divine victory. So, hold on to hope and trust God's greater purpose. The very ones who abandoned you will be amazed at what God does in your life. Their betrayal becomes the catalyst for your promotion. As God turns your situation around, you'll stand taller, not because of your strength, but because of His unshakable power working on your behalf. Never forget, though they turned on you, God turned it for you. He is the master strategist who can transform your pain into purpose, your setbacks into setups, and your silence into a testimony that echoes His glory. When faced with betrayal and hostility, the natural instinct is to react, to defend yourself loudly, and to fight back. But sometimes, the most powerful response is the calm you maintain amidst the chaos. Your composure, your quiet strength. It's not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a form of spiritual warfare, a silent battle fought with faith, wisdom, and restraint. Think about Jesus before his crucifixion. Though he was betrayed and mocked, he remained silent. His calm was not the absence of strength, but the presence of divine authority. Your silence and peace in the face of adversity confuse your enemies because they expect you to crumble or retaliate. Instead, you are standing firm, anchored in God's promises. Calmness in trials disarms the enemy. It frustrates those who thrive on conflict and chaos because it reveals that you are operating from a place of control, not desperation. This peace is a strategic weapon that allows God to work without interference. While others lash out, you are gaining ground in the spiritual realm, positioning yourself for victory. Your calm is an expression of trust. Trust that God sees your situation and that His timing is perfect. It says, I won't be rushed. I won't be manipulated. I am secure in who God says I am. This is not weakness. It is an unshakable warfare strategy that breaks down the schemes of the enemy and prepares the way for a divine breakthrough. So next time someone mistakes your peace for passivity, remind yourself and them that your calm is your battlefield. You are fighting battles others can't see, and your quiet strength will be the very thing that brings your victory. Mercy is one of the most misunderstood strengths. In a world that often equates mercy with weakness, showing grace to those who wrong you can feel like a risk. But mercy is a weapon, one that disarms hatred, breaks cycles of revenge, and invites divine intervention. When you responded with mercy instead of bitterness, you tapped into a powerful force that heaven watches with great favor. Consider the story of Stephen in the book of Acts. Even as he was stoned for his faith, he prayed for his persecutors, asking God to forgive them. That radical mercy shocked the world and echoed God's own heart. When you choose mercy, you align yourself with God's justice and compassion. It's not about ignoring the pain or excusing wrongdoing, but about releasing yourself from the chains of anger and allowing God to fight your battles. Mercy doesn't mean you are weak or naive. It means you are strong enough to rise above the temptation for revenge. It means you trust God enough to leave justice in His hands. And when you do, heaven takes notice. Your mercy becomes a testimony, a signpost that God is in control and that His power is greater than any attack against you. Your enemies might expect you to retaliate or curse them, but mercy flips the script. It puts you in a position of spiritual authority and invites God's blessings to flow. It silences your critics and reveals your true character, one marked by the grace and love of Christ. Remember, mercy is not just a feeling. It's a powerful weapon that shatters darkness. When you wield it, heaven stands with you, and the forces arrayed against you begin to crumble. Silence is often mistaken for weakness or ignorance, but in reality, it can be the loudest declaration of power. When you chose to remain quiet instead of reacting to false accusations and gossip, you were not hiding or hiding out. You were protecting the anointing God placed on your life. You were guarding your testimony, your peace, and your destiny. Many great spiritual leaders were underestimated because they didn't conform to the expected reactions. Think of Moses, who waited for God's timing instead of rushing into conflict, or David, who refused to harm Saul even when wrongly pursued. Your silence, like theirs, is a sign of wisdom and discernment, a refusal to waste energy on battles that belong to God alone. The enemy often miscalculates the power of those who remain quiet. They think silence means submission or defeat, but your silence is a shield, protecting your heart and your future. It's in that quiet waiting that God strengthens you, prepares you, and anoints you for what's next. Don't let others' misunderstandings discourage you. Their inability to see your anointing only proves that God's favor is hidden from those who judge prematurely. Your quiet endurance is setting the stage for a revelation so powerful that it will silence every doubter. So keep your peace. Guard your silence, because what they overlook now will soon be undeniable. There's a sacred strength in standing still when the world around you is spinning out of control. When everyone else is reacting in panic or anger, you made the courageous choice to stand firm in your faith, trusting God's perfect plan. While others schemed and plotted, God was setting a divine trap to catch the enemy off guard and turn the tide in your favor. Standing still doesn't mean you were passive or indifferent. It means you were deliberate and confident in God's sovereignty. You refused to be manipulated by fear, rumors, or injustice. Like a hunter, waiting patiently for the right moment, you knew that God's timing would bring the perfect outcome. In the natural, standing still during crisis can feel risky or counterintuitive. But spiritually, it's the very posture that invites God's intervention. It's saying, I will not move ahead of you. I will not fight my own battles. I will wait on the Lord who never fails. This trust is a powerful testimony to those watching, even if they don't understand. When God sets a trap, it's flawless and unstoppable. The enemy falls into the very pit they dug for you. Your stillness allowed God to work behind the scenes, dismantling every plan against you and preparing a path for your elevation. So stand firm. Be still, because God is not idle. He is actively turning your situation around. There's a moment when those who oppose you become so confident, so proud, that they dance in their perceived victory. They mock your silence, laugh at your patience, and celebrate what they believe is your defeat. But pride blinds them to the fact that God's justice is patient, precise, and inevitable. The Bible warns us about pride leading to destruction. Your enemies may have thought their lies and schemes would stand forever, but they didn't realize that every action has a consequence. When they celebrated prematurely, they walked straight into the justice God was preparing to deliver. Think of the story of King Nebuchadnezzar, who boasted in his power only to be humbled by God's hand. Or Haman, who plotted against Esther and her people only to be destroyed by his own plans. Your enemy's pride is the trap that God will use to bring their downfall. It's hard to watch those who hurt you act like they've won. But remember, God's justice is not immediate in human terms, but it is certain. He sees every lie, every betrayal, and every act of cruelty. And he is preparing a judgment so complete that even their most loyal supporters will be left stunned. So don't be discouraged by their pride. It's a sign that the moment of divine justice is near. Let God's timing unfold, and watch as he turns their dance of pride into a downfall of defeat. Waiting is one of the hardest spiritual disciplines. It's easy to feel forgotten, overlooked, or abandoned during seasons of silence. But your willingness to wait patiently on the Lord is a testament to your faith and trust in his perfect timing. And the most beautiful truth is this: God never disappoints those who wait on him. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah, who waited decades for the promise of a child. The wait was long and filled with doubt, but God's faithfulness never wavered. When the promise came, it was beyond what they imagined. Your wait, too, is not wasted time, but preparation for a blessing beyond your dreams. Waiting on God means surrendering control and trusting that He is working all things together for your good. It means choosing hope over despair, faith over frustration. While the world rushes toward temporary solutions, you are anchored in eternal promises. Every moment you waited strengthened your character, deepened your dependence on God, and prepared you for the glory ahead. God honors your patience by moving powerfully on your behalf, proving that His plans are worth the wait. So hold fast. Your waiting season is a sacred space where God is weaving a masterpiece of redemption, restoration, and victory. He will not disappoint. When the storm of false accusations and betrayal rages around you, your instinct might be to defend yourself or expose the lies. But your choice to pray instead of react was a bold declaration of faith. In those moments, while they spread their falsehoods, your prayers were powerful petitions that heaven carefully recorded. Prayer is not just a spiritual exercise. It's a direct line to the throne of God. When you prayed for your enemies, for justice, and for peace, you were activating divine intervention. God listens intently to the prayers of the righteous, and nothing escapes His notice, not a whisper, not a tear. The Psalms remind us that God hears the cries of the innocent and will bring justice in His perfect timing. Your prayers became a spiritual ledger, accumulating power to dismantle the lies and bring truth to light. The more they lied, the more your prayers intensified, building a heavenly case in your favor. Your commitment to prayer over retaliation revealed your faith in action. Instead of joining the noise of accusation, you rose above it with the weapon of intercession. This spiritual discipline will not only protect you, but also bring a divine breakthrough that silences every false voice. Remember, every prayer is a seed sown in heaven's garden. And as God answers, the harvest will be abundant and undeniable. Grace is often tested in the furnace of trial. When you maintained grace, showing kindness, humility, and forgiveness in the face of falsehood and attack, you demonstrated a strength that exposed the true nature of your adversaries. Your grace under fire shone a light on their darkness, revealing their hidden motives and lies. The Apostle Paul endured incredible persecution, yet responded with grace and unwavering faith. His example teaches us that grace is a powerful testimony that breaks down barriers and softens hearts. When you responded with grace, you stood out in a world that expected bitterness and retaliation. Your enemies may have tried to conceal their schemes, but your grace became a spotlight, exposing every deceit. It confused those who expected you to respond in anger and revealed the contrast between your character and theirs. This contrast is often the catalyst for God's justice to unfold. Grace doesn't mean ignoring injustice. It means choosing to respond with love and dignity even when wronged. Your grace under fire disarmed hostility and invited God's intervention. It forced the world to take notice that you operate under a different authority, a divine one. So embrace your grace as a weapon of truth. Your character in crisis is more powerful than any accusation and will ultimately bring your enemy's lies into the light. One of the hardest but most liberating choices you made was to release your situation into God's hands completely. You stopped trying to control the narrative, ceased defending yourself through human means, and allowed God to be your advocate. And He did not disappoint. He handled your case publicly and powerfully. When God moves publicly, He doesn't just settle scores quietly. He makes a statement. Think of the story of Esther, who risked everything and trusted God to expose Haman's plot openly. God's justice was not only done, but seen by all. Your situation is no different. God's vindication will be unmistakable and undeniable. Trusting God publicly means surrendering your pride and your desire to manage your reputation. It means acknowledging that God's ways are higher than yours and His timing perfect. Though it requires patience and humility, it guarantees a victory that carries eternal weight. When God handles your case, your enemies cannot deny His hand. Their falsehoods are shattered before a watching world, and your testimony becomes a powerful witness to His glory. The public nature of this deliverance magnifies God's name and silences all opposition. So continue to release your battles to God. His public intervention will transform your pain into praise and your defeat into a divine spectacle of triumph. Rejection is heartbreaking, especially when it comes from those you thought would stand by you. Yet history shows us again and again that those rejected by man are often chosen by God for greater purposes. What your enemies discarded, God saw as priceless, an opportunity for elevation and honor. Jesus Himself was rejected by His own people, betrayed by friends, and crucified as a criminal. Yet God exalted Him, and His rejection became the pathway to glory and salvation for all. Your story echoes this divine pattern, rejected not as a final sentence, but as a setup for divine promotion. When God elevates, He does so in ways the world cannot ignore. He turns your rejection into a testimony that challenges worldly values and reveals His kingdom principles. Your elevation will be a sign to others that God sees what humans miss and honors those who remain faithful. Don't let rejection steal your identity or destiny. Instead, embrace it as a divine detour, one that leads you into God's higher calling and abundant blessings. The one they rejected is about to become the one who reigns in victory. So stand confidently, knowing that God is lifting you higher than any human approval ever could. Mercy is not just about kindness, it's a demonstration of strength. When you chose to show mercy to those who wronged you, you aligned yourself with the very heart of God. This act of grace opened the door for God to display His unmatched power on your behalf. Think of the story of Joseph forgiving his brothers, or Stephen praying for his persecutors. Their mercy was the catalyst for God's miraculous intervention and the destruction of every scheme against them. Your mercy softened hearts and invited God's powerful hand to move in ways you could never orchestrate. God's power is made perfect in your mercy. It's a divine exchange. Your grace becomes the platform for His glory. When you extend mercy, you relinquish control and invite God's authority to act decisively and publicly. Mercy also protects you from bitterness and the destructive cycle of revenge. It keeps your heart pure and your spirit free, preparing you to receive God's blessings. And when God shows His power, it magnifies your mercy, creating a testimony that astounds even your fiercest critics. So continue to walk in mercy, knowing that with every act of grace, you are unleashing God's unstoppable power in your life. Every plan your enemies made against you, every lie, every scheme was not wasted. It backfired. But it didn't just backfire by accident. It did so perfectly within God's timing. God's clock is different from ours, and his timing ensures that every plan against you will fail spectacularly when the time is right. The Bible tells us that God's timing is always perfect. Think of Esther again, whose bold intervention came at precisely the right moment to save her people. Your situation is similar. God has been orchestrating every detail, ensuring that what was meant to harm you will serve to glorify Him. Their plans might have seemed to gain traction at first, giving the illusion of success. But these false victories were only temporary, designed by God to set up a more significant triumph for you. This divine timing protects you from premature victories that might be short-lived. When their plans collapse, it won't be a quiet failure. It will be a public revelation that points unmistakably to God's intervention. The timing will be so precise and powerful that even skeptics won't be able to deny it. So trust in God's perfect timing. Every enemy plan is a setup for a divine reversal that will leave you and everyone watching in awe. Vindication is more than just clearing your name. It's a sacred act of God that restores your honor, your peace, and your purpose. Your vindication wasn't merely a public correction of lies, it was a holy moment where God's righteousness was revealed through your life. Think of how the Bible often describes vindication as God's justice shining like the dawn, bringing light to darkness and truth to lies. Your vindication carries that same power. It's a spiritual restoration that confirms God's favor and your unwavering faith. This holy vindication transcends human understanding. It touches your soul, renews your strength, and confirms that you are on the path God ordained for you. It's a sign that you are not alone and that God's hand has been upon you all along. When others see your vindication, they won't just see a man or woman proven right. They will see the living evidence of God's holiness, justice, and power. Your testimony becomes a beacon of hope for those facing similar trials. Celebrate your vindication as a sacred gift, a divine confirmation that God fights for those He loves and calls His own. In the end, the greatest testimony is not about you. It's about the God who stood with you through every trial. When your enemies witness your rise, your grace, your unshakable peace, they are left in awe. But their awe is not for your strength. It's for the divine power that carried you through. This awe points hearts and minds to God's glory. It breaks down barriers and challenges unbelief. When people see what God has done for you, they cannot deny His existence, His justice, and His love. Your life becomes a living sermon, a walking testimony to His faithfulness. Remember that God delights in showing His power through His children. Your story is part of His greater narrative, a story of redemption, grace, and triumph that will inspire generations. The awe you inspire invites others to seek the God who fights for His chosen. So walk boldly, knowing that your victory glorifies God and draws others into His kingdom. Your story is not just about survival, it's about divine triumph, and the world is watching. Got it? Here are 15 fresh, deeply engaging, and attractive headings, along with 5 long, powerful paragraphs each, crafted to inspire, encourage, and connect emotionally. These continue the theme of faith, perseverance, and divine intervention, using rich storytelling, relatable examples, and heartfelt reflection. There's a profound loneliness that comes when those closest to you turn away. It feels like the whole world has abandoned you, and the pain of rejection is almost unbearable. But while the world walks away, heaven draws near. When human support fails, God's embrace becomes your refuge, a sanctuary where love never leaves and hope is born anew. You might feel forgotten or invisible in your pain, but God's eyes are fixed on you. Just like the prodigal son's father, God waits with open arms, ready to welcome you back and restore what's been lost. His embrace is deeper than any human touch and more lasting than any friendship. When others fail to stand by your side, it's an invitation to experience the fullness of God's presence. His love is the kind that heals wounds, strengthens your spirit, and teaches you that your worth isn't defined by people's acceptance, but by His unconditional love. This divine embrace transforms loneliness into strength and abandonment into belonging. You are never truly alone, for heaven stands with you, ready to carry you through the darkest nights. So, when you feel deserted, remember, heaven has not let go. Its arms are wrapped around you, holding you close in love that never fails. Pressure reveals what's really inside. When life squeezes you from every side, through betrayal, hardship, or loneliness, it's faith that either breaks or becomes unshakable. Your faith refused to crack under the weight of your trials, and that refusal is a testimony to the strength God has built within you. Consider the bamboo in a storm. It bends but does not break. Your faith is like that bamboo, flexible enough to endure the harshest winds, but rooted deep enough to stand tall. While others crumble under pressure, your faith has held steady because it's anchored in the promises of God, not in fleeting circumstances. This kind of faith doesn't come by accident. It's forged in fire, refined through perseverance, and strengthened by God's continual presence. It's a faith that whispers, "I may be down, but I am not out," even when the pain feels unbearable. The pressure you faced was not meant to destroy you, but to reveal the power of God working through your steadfastness. It's in these moments that your faith becomes a light that inspires others to hold on, no matter what. So, keep standing firm. Your faith is stronger than any challenge because it's built on the unshakable foundation of God's eternal love. Silence often feels like waiting in the shadows, unheard and unseen. What seemed like silence was actually the calm before a powerful shout that would shake the heavens and the earth. When you didn't respond to attacks or false accusations, many assumed your story was over. But God was writing a narrative that would make your voice impossible to ignore. Like David, who was silent while Saul hunted him, your quietness was strategic, allowing God's timing to unfold perfectly. Now, the moment has come for your story to be heard loudly and clearly. God has taken your whispers and transformed them into a mighty roar that demands attention. Your testimony isn't just about what you endured, it's about how God's power elevated you above every trial. Your journey from silence to shout is proof that God's timing is perfect. He turns your quiet moments into a victory anthem that inspires, encourages, and empowers others who feel unheard. So get ready to shout your testimony boldly, because God has amplified your story for all to hear. It's in our weakest moments that God's strength shines brightest. When you felt powerless, defeated, and utterly exhausted, God was working quietly to infuse you with supernatural strength that could only come from Him. Your weakness was never a setback. It was the perfect canvas for God's strength to be displayed. Think about Paul, who described his weakness as the very place where God's power was made perfect. When we admit we can't do it alone, God's strength fills the gaps, lifting us beyond what we thought possible. Your lowest points became opportunities for divine empowerment. There were times you wanted to give up, times you questioned how you'd make it through, but God showed up again and again, reminding you that true strength isn't about physical endurance or human willpower. It's about relying on Him fully. This strength is not temporary, it's enduring. It transforms your character, renews your hope, and equips you to face whatever lies ahead with confidence. So, when you feel weak, remember it's God's strength in you that will carry you to victory. Life's hardest seasons often come with uncertainty. When you couldn't see the outcome and every door seemed closed, trusting God's process was your only choice. Trust is not passive. It's an active decision to believe that God's plans for you are good, even when the path ahead is dark and confusing. Think of the caterpillar. It must endure a long, unseen transformation before becoming a butterfly. You too were in a season of transformation, even if it felt uncomfortable or uncertain. God was working inside you, molding you for a destiny you could not yet imagine. This kind of trust requires surrender, letting go of the need to control and embracing God's perfect timing and wisdom. It means saying, "I don't have all the answers, but I trust the one who does." Even when the future felt shaky, your faith was a steady hand guiding you through the fog. God's process is never random. It's purposeful, preparing you for the blessings and breakthroughs to come. So hold tight to trust, knowing that God's process is shaping your story into something magnificent. There are times when darkness seems overwhelming, when betrayal, false accusations, and pain cloud your entire world. But no matter how thick the darkness, God's light is unstoppable. It breaks through the gloom, bringing clarity, hope, and victory in the most unexpected moments. Your journey through the dark was not a journey into despair. It was a passage toward the dawn. Like the sun rising after the longest night, God's light began to shine in your life, exposing lies, healing wounds, and illuminating your path forward. This light didn't just reveal the truth, it transformed it. What was once hidden in shadows became a testimony of God's power to redeem and restore. Your story became a beacon for others walking through their own dark valleys. Darkness may have surrounded you, but God's light never left you. It pierced through every fear, every doubt, and every attack, proving that no darkness can overcome the radiance of His love. So step boldly into the light, knowing it shines brightest in the places you once feared most. Patience is more than waiting. It's an active, hopeful endurance rooted in faith. When you waited for God's justice, healing, or breakthrough, you weren't passive. You were standing strong in the belief that God's promises would come to pass, even if it took longer than you expected. The stories of biblical heroes like Joseph and Hannah remind us that patience is a powerful spiritual discipline. Their waiting seasons were long and painful, but patience allowed them to receive God's best at the perfect time. You learned to hold on to hope, even when the waiting was agonizing. Every moment of patience grew your character, deepened your trust, and sharpened your spiritual vision. Patience protected you from making rushed decisions or falling into despair.